Hey guys, welcome to my pickups for the month of November 2022, so let's go and get into it. First off, hope you guys did have a good Thanksgiving and the day after. Hope you guys did get some pretty good deals, and hopefully throughout next month as well that we'll continue to get some good ones as well. So the deals that I got this month was all through my local game stores, and I did visit some stores like much further downstate here in Michigan, ones that I've never been to before. And honestly, the ones that I went to, they were not that good, honestly, but nonetheless, still got some good stuff here, so let's just get right into it, why don't we? So, first stack right here, this is all from Chaotic Games that I got last weekend. First game here, it's Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Skies. I think this was the very first 3D render Dragon Quest game they did on the DS, and I know this was the most successful one on the system as well. Like, this sold like over 1 million copies, I know that for sure, compared to like the other DS games that came out, but really happy to get those. I do want to try to get like all the Dragon Quest games here, since I'm now getting more into this series nowadays. Another one I got was Saga Frontier. I know the Saga games, they have been getting re-releases lately. I'm pretty sure this game did get a remaster not that long ago, matter of fact. But still wanted to get to like the original version of it though, because I'm always interested in how just the original one played out. Another one I got was Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. I didn't know they made Dead or Alive 2 on the PS2s. I thought it was mainly an OG Xbox series, like starting out at least. But hey, as soon as I saw this one, like, I just picked it up. Why not? Next game is Tales of the Abyss. I believe this was the second Tales of game that they released on the PS2, as the previous one was Tales of Legendia, which I'm sure I showed in last month's video. I think there's still another Tales of game on the PS2, but correct me if I'm wrong on that, but nonetheless, I'm very happy to get this one. Next game is Silent Scope 2 Dark Silhouette. This is a rail shooter from Konami, and I have such a soft spot for rail shooters that if I see them, they look fun, like, I don't hesitate to pick them up at all. And so yeah, I'm glad that I got this one. This one, oh, I'm finally happy to have this game. Finally, I've been looking for this for a long time. Half-Life. Half-Life 1, the only console release of this game, as far as I'm aware, has been on the PS2. And it's an interesting version of Half-Life 1. I don't, if you are going to play the Half-Life series, like, play it on PC, seriously, because, like, that's how they originally came out, and the intended way to play them, of course. But nonetheless, though, since I love this series so much, like, it's probably my favorite first-person shooter series ever. Like, it's either this or Doom is my favorite FPS series. But, like, I love them for different reasons, though, like, completely different reasons. But this version, I think they added another mode to it. I think it was like a co-op mode of some sorts. I don't remember off the top of my head, though, but it was a really interesting release that they did for it. But, yeah, finally happy to finally get this. Next one is God of War, the first game. I just didn't have the first God of War game. I do have the second one, but I recently found out it's actually a faulty copy that I got, but I think I should be able to get it resurfaced, though. But nonetheless, wanted to get the original version of God of War 1, and I still have yet to play through any game in this series, but I will be starting with the first one, though, and then working my way up to God of War Ragnarok, which been hearing so many times from everyone. It's like it's a phenomenal game, possibly game of the year, which I think I disagree. I think I would prefer Elden Ring personally, but then again, I haven't played Ragnarok, but I don't deny it's probably a very, very good game. But nonetheless, very happy to get the first game, though. Next game is BloodRayne 2. I know the BloodRayne games, these have been getting like re-releases on modern platforms, but I just saw BloodRayne 2 for a very good price, and still haven't played any of these games here, but they do look quite fun though, so there's that. Next game, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 1. The Tenkaichi games compared to the Budokai games, they have more of like a much more open field compared to the original Budokai trilogy, where they were just like a 2D basic fighting game series, but still had like some 3D elements to it. But with this being a PS2 Dragon Ball Z game, had to pick it up though because I want to try to get every single DBZ game that has come out on PS2 because they made so many of them and pretty much all of them were really good. But this copy, though, I really got to get a replacement case, though, because this case is real dirty. I mean, everything else, like the case, the game disc, and the manual, like, they're all in good shape here, but, God, I really got to get a replacement case, though, for this. Next game, Front Mission Evolved. It's good to know Square Enix, they are really trying to do like re-releases of some of the older games in this series. In fact, they've just been doing that a lot with some of their other IPs as well, which of course is a very, very good thing for sure. But Front Mission, do look forward to playing this series though whenever I do get the chance. Next game is Tales of Grace's F. I believe this has been a PS3 exclusive game, a Tales of game for some time, but I'm pretty sure it might be on PC. No, I don't think this is on PC actually, but just saw it for like a really good deal over at Chaotic that just didn't hesitate to pick it up. And last game from Chaotic was Star Fox Assault. I've been trying to get a hold of this game for some time, but I've just been seeing like prices going all over the place for this, of course, because it's a GameCube Nintendo game, of course, but nonetheless, very happy to finally get it, though, and it's a pretty good copy of it, too, though, complete, and the disc is in good condition as well, and plus, it's just a normal black label copy, it doesn't have that ugly bestseller sticker on there, which I don't want anything to do with those copies right there, but nonetheless, very happy to have this game finally in the collection. Alright, this next stack, these first few is basically all the pickups that I got from downstate here in Michigan for all the stores that I've never been to before. And like I said, it was, like, they had sales going on for Black Friday and all, but it was never anything that I really wanted, hence why, like, the stuff that I did get downstate is just this stuff right here. But nonetheless, let's go through them. The first game that I got, I believe the store I got this from was called Media Reload. I think that's what it was called. A very beautiful store that I'll make sure I put the name of it, and so that way you guys can, if you're ever in downstate Michigan, I really do highly recommend you go check them out. They are a really, really good store. But only thing I got from them though was Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I did used to have Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo here back then, but for some reason I got rid of it though, because I just gave away a bunch of Super Nintendo games to a friend back then. But nonetheless, finally, very, very happy to finally have this back though, because this is my favorite 2D Zelda game, and probably either like my second or third favorite Zelda game overall. But you still haven't played this game, like, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Like, both if you're a Zelda fan or if you just love video games overall, like, you have to play this game. Alright, next thing, the rest of everything was from this one store. It's called Retro Taku Games. It is, as you probably guessed from the name, it is a store that has a lot of imports from Japan mostly, but my favorite part from this store that I'm going to show a picture of, they had a loose copy of Little Samson on the NES, and it's like, dude, oh my god, Little Samson, I never thought I would ever see it in person, but oh my god, and they let me hold it. It's like, holy crap, that was so cool to see. So, and they said that they got that copy at the time that I went there last weekend, like 2 weeks ago, so they just got that copy in recently. If you're unaware, Little Samson, it is a very late NES release, a very, very good game. one of the rarest games on the NES, and easily in top 5 most valuable games for it as well too. Like, if you do include like world championships, stadium events and whatnot, but Little Samson, like, it'll be like the next ones below those other 3 right there usually. But yeah, holy crap, I actually got to hold a copy of Little Samson. That was awesome. That was so worth it going to that store, and I didn't even know they had it there. But it's like, holy crap, saw that in display case, like, please let me hold that. I want to like actually get a picture of me holding it. But what I did pick up from them, though, was this stuff here. First thing, this is the Arc the Lad collection watch. So this watch, I'm pretty sure the way you got this is if you pre-ordered Arc the Lad collection on the PS1. But as you can see, it has like a watch face that is based off of one of the Arc the Lad games. But if you go online, you will see that there is different faceplates of this watch, though. I think there's either like 4 or 5 different faceplates they made of this. But I'm just really happy to just have one of these, because that way I have like mostly a complete copy of Arc the Lad collection on PS1. So yeah, I thought that was really cool to get. Plus, they were selling it for a very good price compared to eBay, because this overall was like $50 less than what eBay would normally charge. So yeah, very happy to get that. Game that I played a lot of back then was Croc 2. Croc overall, it's an interesting platformer. Originally, Croc was like a idea that some other studio gave to Nintendo to make as like the next Yoshi's Island game. They got rejected, obviously, and as a result, for like the amount that they already worked up for the project they were working on, they just decided, let's just make it our own IP, why don't we? This is the second game, obviously. The first one was Croc, A Legend of the Gobos, which did release on the PlayStation as well as the Sega Saturn back then, but Croc 2 didn't come out on the Saturn, obviously why. But Croc 2, I think I preferred this one over the first game, and they did a better job with like the controls in this game, and some of the missions you did in the levels was a lot more, like, they were varied and was well paced compared to the first game. But if you haven't, highly recommend it, though. It's still a very, very cheap game to get. So yeah, if you want a very good PlayStation platformer series, I would highly recommend Croc. Next game is Namco Museum Volume 1. This release of Namco Museum came with Pac-Man, Galaga, Pole Position, Bosconian, Rally X, New Rally X, and Toy Pop. They made 5 different volumes of Namco Museum on the PlayStation 1. I do hope to get all of them, but I think it's both Volume 3 and 5 are rare and pretty valuable. But hey, any like release of Namco Museum, I just pick up, because who doesn't love Namco games, for God's sake? So yeah, happy to get that. Alright, these last 2, these aren't necessarily games, but they are related to gaming stuff, though. They're both PlayStation 3 video discs that, if I recall, I think these would have been bundled with the PS3 for like the launch models, if I recall back then. If you guys have gotten the system back then, if you still have like a complete original launch model, let me know if like one of these came with the system. But they're basically like promotional videos for like telling you like how to use the system, and an advertisement for PlayStation Network. So yeah, I just thought these were really cool to get, though, because I'm just a big fan of the system, and just any weird stuff like this here's like, let's get it, why not? Alright, this next game right here, I picked this up much earlier this month, and this was in the middle of the workday for me. I was driving back to my office, but I remembered that as I was driving to the location I was going to, I remember that passing down on the side of the road, there was a thrift store, and I thought, well, I have to take this road back, so like, why don't we just stop in there real quick and pick up and see if they just have games there. They did, and they had this one game here that I've been looking for this for some time, because this is like a pretty good game overall. but the prices of it since much earlier last year, I think they just spiked a little bit. But this game picked up for $2. X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition. Yeah, this is a no joke. This is a really, really good Wolverine game. I haven't played it before, but everyone I hear it from and see online, they say, like, this is a very, very good game. That you just play as Wolverine, and there are, like, some, like, the combat will involve you, say, like, if an enemy is up on a high area, you can just instantly snap to them. Just the combat overall is just a lot of fun in this game, so... yeah, very happy to get this at that thrift store, like I said, for $2, literally. The cover art isn't in the greatest shape because it's like slightly water damaged, but there's a way you can fix that, though. But for $2 compared to this game, which this is a complete copy, normally a complete copy sells for, like I see for $60 today. So, yeah, very happy to get this off the list. Alright, these two stacks right here, this was all from GT Games, from Traverse City this month. Because if I recall, their sales that they had going on was, I think it was like 20% off almost everything in the store, even stuff, well, except for, I think, stuff in their display case, I would say, which understandably why. But yeah, it was pretty much like almost everything in the store was just had a percentage off, essentially. The number one thing that I got there, well, no, this is no, never mind. This is like the second biggest thing I got there. It's Tactics Ogre Battle series on PS1. I know I've heard of Tactics Ogre like plenty of times throughout the last few years. If I recall, or was it Ogre Battle that had inspiration from Fire Emblem? But nonetheless, though, like the way that the battle system is in this game, it reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics, and it's why that it interests me. So yeah, really happy to get it and to try it out one of these days. Next game, Jet Moto 2. This is a racing game that has really interesting vehicles for a racing game. I do remember that I played a demo of this way back then on like some of the PlayStation Underground demo discs, I think is what I played it on. So screw it, just saw a copy of it in GT Games, why not finally get the game. Next game is Gran Turismo 2. Gran Turismo, it's been like the #1 racing game series that I've been wanting to like really just dive into because I'm just a fan of PlayStation, and this has always been a very popular simulation racing series. But yeah, I think with this release, I am only missing GT Sport and Gran Turismo 7, which I do not plan on picking up until that game is like $5, given the state that game is in currently. But nonetheless, very happy to get GT2 though, because I'm pretty sure this is probably a much better game to play and doesn't feel infuriating to play compared to a Gran Turismo 7. Refuse to support that game until they completely overhaul the monetization in that game. Next game is Hot Shots Golf. Hot Shots Golf, this is, I swear, an underrated golfing series. It's got like humorous looking characters, it's very arcadey feeling. It's like much prefer this over like Tiger Woods PGA golf games because this one is just a lot more arcadey and more fun overall. So yeah, very happy to get this. Now this next game here, been looking for this for a long time, but always had some value to it though. And thanks to this pickup, I finally have every single game released on the PS2 in this series. But this game, it is The Document of Metal Gear Solid 2. This came out after Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty and before Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, the re-release with more content they added in. This is essentially, as you probably guessed it, it's a documentary, essentially, of Metal Gear Solid 2. They included a bunch of, like, 3D models for you to, like, look at, as well as, like early development footage of some character models, like you could see, like, early builds of maybe, like, Snake, Raiden, and Vamp, for example, some of the Dead Cell members. And they even went as far as showing you some models of stuff you never thought that they would take the time to. Like an example that I've seen, it's inside the cockpit of Metal Gear Ray. There's even, it has like a compilation of all of the game's trailers before it came out. Just overall, a really, really good, like, interactive documentary, essentially, of Metal Gear Solid 2. But I take it like this just didn't sell that much because, like, it's not a new Metal Gear game. It's just meant to be a documentary of, at the time, like, the most successful game in the series. But very happy to finally have it, though, because, like I said, this completes every single Metal Gear-related thing on a PlayStation 2. That's all in my region. Still plan on picking up, like, Japanese versions of the games, but for now, just focusing on my region for stuff that I'm missing. But, yeah, very happy to have this, finally. Next game is Dot Hack GU Rebirth Volume 1. The Dot Hack games, if you've seen in my previous videos, you would have seen that I did get the original 4 IMOQ games, Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine. But I haven't gotten the GU games yet, which is kind of surprising because the IMOQ games, like, to get like that whole quadrilogy series is such a huge pain because of how expensive Outbreak and especially Quarantine is. But the GU games, this was a way more successful and popular series compared to the original IMOQ games. That essentially, that when this series came out, that's when most people was really starting to pay attention to Dot Hack. So as a result, they wanted to go back and finish the IMOQ games, but they realized, like, Outbreak and especially Quarantine again just went up in value so much because they just became very, very rare. But the GU games, though, they're still, like, somewhat readily available. They did do a re-release of the GU games with Volume 1, 2, 3, and they made a new volume, Volume 4, that like I said, has been had a re-release. That it's all on modern platforms, and it's at such an affordable price, and therefore the original GU series, like, it's still like a somewhat affordable series on the PS2. But really, if you're gonna play the GU games, get the re-release, which is called Dot Hack GU Last Recode, if I recall, and that game constantly goes on sale. Like, I'm sure you can pick it up now as I'm recording this for like $5 on a PSN currently. So yeah, if you want to get into the Dot Hack series, highly recommend you get Last Recode, but if you still want to play the PS2 games, I would still recommend that, of course. Next game is Disgaea Hour of Darkness. I believe this is the first Disgaea game. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, though, because I still haven't gotten into this series yet, though, but I do need to get a replacement case, though, because the bottom latch doesn't close right here. But still got it for, like, a pretty good price on a sale, and so, like, just why not? Let's get it. Next game is Chaos Legion. I do remember seeing this game before. I don't remember what it's about, though, honestly, but since it's Capcom made it, like, that's an instant win for me, obviously. But from what it seems like, it seems to be it's a game similar to, like, Devil May Cry, which is another series made by Capcom, of course. But yeah, just looked pretty interesting, so why not get it? Next game is Sly 2 Band of Thieves. This is the second Sly Cooper game that I swear this is such an underrated series nowadays. That was popular back then, but nowadays, like, nobody talks about this because everyone's just more focused on Sucker Punch's current IPs with, like, Ghost of Tsushima and whatnot. But nonetheless, very happy to finally get this game, though. And speaking of, we also got Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. This was the last Sly game that they made on the PS2, and it didn't take until, I believe it was 2013 when the last Sly Cooper game came out. So yeah, that was quite a gap between releases, but this was still, like, a equally very good game that now I'm just missing Sly Cooper 1. So yeah, nonetheless, very happy to get that finally. And the last stack from GT Games, the first one is PS3 game, Bayonetta 1. Finally happy to get Bayonetta 1 just on, like, the original systems that they released on, because I do have the Wii U version that came with Bayonetta 2, but I do also with this, I got to get a replacement case, because this is not, like, an original PS3 case here, but very happy to have Bayonetta's. I'm a huge fan of this series. This is such a very fun, action-packed series that is like the successor to Devil May Cry. Like, I'm sure like the original creators of Devil May Cry, they went on to make Bayonetta, if I recall, hence why like the games just feel very similar. But yep, there's the first. That's the first game. Next one, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I did play Tropical Freeze on the Switch, and man, that was such a insanely fun platformer. Very happy that they got David Wise back so he could compose the soundtrack, and it just sounded so beautiful. But Tropical Freeze, if you love platformers, don't miss out on this game. This is an amazing platforming game. Next game is Eco. The studio that made Ecos, I don't remember what they were called, but they were the same guys that later on went to go make Shadow of the Colossus, and also after that, I'm sure their next game was The Last Guardian, which, how long did that take to come out? But before those two games, they did make Eco right here. You essentially play as like this young guy, and you have to escort, like, I believe it's his sister or like some close relative of his. I haven't played it, obviously, but nonetheless, if anything of like Shadow Colossus is to go off of like whatever that studio makes, like, it's definitely going to be a really interesting and unique game. Next game is Cold Winter. This is a first-person shooter that did hear a lot of people recommend this. It's kind of like a hidden gem of during this generation for a first-person shooter, so yeah, why not get it? It's pretty cheap. A game that I played a lot back then, and I believe I got this for Christmas after I got the PS2 back then for the first time. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. This is such an underrated 3D platforming game that you go through levels, your main weapons is boomerangs, and you just like do objectives, collect things, and you'll get, I believe they were called Thunder Eggs. It's an interesting name. And you just keep going through them, collect enough so you can access boss fights and whatnot. And Ty himself, like, oh, he's such an awesome character. They did make 2 more games after this one. I think Sly. I think Ty 3. I believe that game ended up being a disappointment, from what I recall. Like, they were shoving in too much stuff that detrayed from it being like just a basic 3D platformer, from what I could tell. But do want to still like play those later 2 games though. But regardless, saw the first game, had to get it back. Next game is Endgame. Endgame, I believe this was a rail shooter, if I remember. I do recall how I found out about this game. I was watching one of Metal Jesus' videos on like Hidden Gem PS2 games, and this was a recommendation from Reggie. So yeah, if it's like a rail shooter game, I'm definitely not missing out on that. Alright, next stack of games right here. In fact, no, sorry, this one was also from GT Games, I'm sorry. The last one from them is Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross, this game has been, I feel like this game has been re-released so many times throughout the years, but very happy to finally have the original PlayStation release. That this was like a spiritual successor or just a sequel of some sorts to Chrono Trigger. Do hear most people do prefer Chrono Trigger, but still say like Chrono Cross is still totally worth your time though. So whenever I do get the time, once again, I'll gladly play this, and hopefully it turns out pretty good. Alright, this next stack, this is all from a Gamers Trading Post in Houghton Lake, because during the drive as I was coming back upstate from Thanksgiving after going through like all of the other stores there previously, Houghton Lake was on the way back, so let's stop by and take advantage of Black Friday deals, why not? So first thing I got, an NES game, it's Strider. The original Strider from Capcom, a very good 2D platform hack and slash game, pretty similar to like Ninja Gaiden. They did make sequels to this, and I think they even did like a reboot back, it was back in early 2014, they did it was a Strider remake, which I played a little bit of. I did play that game a bit back then, and that's a very, very good Metroidvania game. So if you do see like the Strider reboot on like modern platforms, definitely give that game a shot. That's a very good game. But the original one here, still a lot of fun to play. Like I said, if you're into games like Ninja Gaiden on the NES, definitely check it out. Next game, God of War Saga. This was a collection of 5 God of War games that you could get back then. That you would get God of War 1, 2, 3, as well as Chains of Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta. The previous 2 there, those were the PSP games. Though, if you buy this game used, keep in mind the PSP games, Chains of Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta, they only came on a download voucher right here. So if you buy it used, like 99% of the time that's going to be used already. So you're really only going to be getting like God of War 1, 2, and the second disc right here is God of War 3. I do already own like other versions of like all these games already, but this was the last one on the PS3 that I had to just complete the PS3 set of God of War games. So yeah, very happy to finally get this. Excuse me. Alright, the next game is Legend of Mana. I don't recall if this has anything much to do with like Secret of Mana or Trials of Mana, or maybe this was like the successor to the original trilogy on the SNES. Did the first game come out on the SNES? No, that was a Game Boy game, sorry. But yeah, I believe this was intended to be like the successor to Trials of Mana, because that came out of Secret of Mana. But it does look very interesting, of course. That do look forward to playing it one of these days. Next game, Namco Museum 50th Anniversary. So this Namco Museum release comes with Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, Galaxian, Dig Dug, Rally X, Pole Position 2, Xevious, Dragon Spirit, Bosconian, Rolling Thunder, Mappy, and Sky Kid. I didn't know they made a Pole Position 2, as I did play like the first game plenty of times back then, of course, but yeah, gotta say, this is a really good collection of Namco games for a whole like museum collection of some sorts. So yeah, if you do see this on the GameCube, highly recommend it, because you essentially just get all of the core Namco games, arcade games back then, even some ones that would be lesser known but still was fairly popular back then. So yeah, highly recommend you get this release. Next game is The Evil Within. The Evil Within, this was what the Resident Evil creator, or at least like the most well-known lead creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami, went to make after he left Capcom and went to go make Tango Gameworks and works under Bethesda nowadays. This game, I have played this game a lot. I've put so many hours into it. The gameplay is fun, slight issues with it starting out, but over time as you get upgrades, like it does get a lot better. The story, though, sucks. Like once you understand the plot, like it's okay. It's just okay for a plot, but the way it's told, though, is so terrible, honestly. But it's still like a very fun survival horror game to play. If you still haven't played it, highly recommend you do. Though I would suggest you play the PC version so you can get rid of the stupid black bars that they added in this game. That I don't know if you can disable the black bars in the console release, because I did get the PS4 version back when this game first came out, but it was then came up for that holiday season that year. That's when I first built my PC, got into PC gaming, and picked this game up on there. And then I didn't go back to this version, so I don't know if they did an update to this over time that got rid of those black bars, because this is not a movie, for God's sake. So adding in those stupid black bars, which I always hate when movies do that, which almost all movies do these days. It's not pleasant to look at. I feel like I'm suffering claustrophobia as I'm playing a game like that, or even watching a movie like that. It's annoying. You got a big screen TV for a reason. Use that real estate, please. But anyways, Evil Within 1, still recommend it though. It's really, really cheap to get this game nowadays, so don't pass on this if you're into survival horror games. Next game is Star Ocean Integrity and Faithfulness. Don't remember what this Star Ocean game was much about, but nonetheless, Square Enix RPG game, had to get it. Next game is Star Ocean The Last Hope International. This is another Star Ocean game I'm not very familiar with, but nonetheless, just had to pick it up though because, again, Square Enix RPG game. I always get those. Now this last stack here, this was all stuff that I ordered online throughout this month. The first thing I got, this is just an accessory, but still worth mentioning though. This is from My Arcade. It is a Famicom to NES cartridge adapter. If you're unaware, the NES or the Nintendo equivalent over in Japan, the Famicom, they had like much smaller cartridges for games that putting them in an NES in the States or even in Europe like is not going to work without an adapter like this. Because like our cartridges, like they were much longer, of course, and the Famicom carts, like as you can see with the shape, like it's literally like that small right there. So yeah, put them in here, and you can put them into an NES and just play like an actual Famicom game. There's no like any region protection or anything. It's just a matter of getting the cart to actually go into the system properly and make contact with the pins inside of it. Then it'll play no problem. Alright, this right here, this is my very first Whatnot purchase. This just came in today, matter of fact, the day that I'm recording this. It's Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past. This was a sealed copy, but it's like I really do want to play this game though, hence why like I opened it. But even the price I paid for it, like I spent much cheaper than what a sealed copy normally went for. Like it was essentially like even like a little bit less than what a normal complete open copy of this game would go for. But Dragon Quest VII, this is this version. It's a remake of what was Dragon Warrior 7 on the PlayStation 1. That they did a remake of this on the 3DS, and as well as later on they did do a remake of Dragon Quest VIII on the 3DS as well. That I do hope to get, but that game is more expensive compared to this. So hopefully find it at a okay price one of these days. But very happy to finally get it, though, that I am aiming to try to get every single Dragon Quest game ever released, so yeah, happy to get that. Next game is Legend of Heroes 2, Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch. The Legend of Heroes games, this was the second one that they released on the PSP, because you had like this original trilogy, which if you recall, I believe it was 2 months ago, I got the third game that came after this one. That is like one of the most valuable PSP games, the truth be told, but yeah, I just got the second one. Now I just got to get the first game here, because repeating this trend where when it comes to like a trilogy, or in some instances a quadrilogy of games, I always get like the last game, which generally is the most expensive, then just work my way down from there. So yeah, just got to get the first game, and to let you know, like after this original trilogy came out, then that is when Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky came out, and that is essentially like what made Legend of Heroes popular today, which do recommend you play that game even over this one, because that's just a much better game overall. Alright, this game here, so I should say that it was back on the 31st last month, a re-release of this game came out, and I was so looking forward to that re-release, like ever since it was first announced, because this is either my most favorite or second most favorite indie game ever. Like the other one is a Cave Story, and the other game would be this Lone Survivor Director's Cut. Lone Survivor, this game, it is made by a single person who goes by the name of Jasper Byrne. If you're a fan of Silent Hill, just survival horror games overall, do not pass up on this game. This is such an awesome 2D pixelated survival horror game. May sound pretty strange of how are you going to get a survival horror game to work in like a 2D pixel art way. Oh, you got to play this game. This game did it so perfectly that, like I said, a re-release of this did just come out on PC and later on the Switch, where it's called a Super Lone Survivor. it is essentially like a re-release of this, again, which this was already somewhat of an upgraded re-release of the game. But Super Lone Survivor, though, it has plenty more content in it. It's got new endings, new enemies in it, some new areas, and just more events to find as well, too. That I haven't found them yet, because it's kind of cryptic to find the extra content in it, truth be told. But nonetheless, though, like, anything this guy makes Jasper Byrne, like, I will gladly support, because I love this game so much. So anything he makes, the same thing for, like, the guy who made Cave Story, Tom Happ made Axiom Verge. Like, anything they make, I will gladly support, because, oh my god, they made great games overall. So, yeah. But for this Lone Survivor, oh, don't pass up on this, like I said. If you're into horror games, don't pass up on that game at all. Alright, this next one, been looking to get this for some time, but was just never okay with the price. But this copy, it was selling less than what it normally sells for. And it's like, okay, let's finally pick this up here, because that might be the cheapest that I'll ever find it. It's The Third Birthday. Very controversial game this is, because if you know, this is the third game, no pun intended, of the Parasite Eve series. Or most fans of the series will tell you, like, no, the real series is Parasite Eve 1 and 2, somewhat. But this game, ignore it. It just doesn't exist at all. But from what I looked into it, it does look like a really fun game, but it's a Parasite Eve game, though. If you play, like, the first two, oh my god, this game is nothing like the first game at all. That, in a way, like, this is really reminding me of, like, Metroid Other M, you know, this, where is it? This absolute monstrosity of a game that Nintendo made that essentially killed off Metroid for many years to come, of course. That's totally what this game is reminding me of, everything I've heard about it. So yeah, hopefully it's not going to be incredibly pissed off when I play through this, though, but still wanted to get this game nonetheless, so I can finally complete this trilogy. And man, Square Enix, please make a new entry in Parasite Eve, but nothing like this, though. Please don't make it like this at all. Make it like the first game, please. But please don't repeat anything like, you know, what these games did that just royally piss off the fan base and just completely discredit it. But yeah, very happy to finally get this game, though, because it has spiked in value somewhat, as I don't understand why, though, given the reputation of this game. But very happy to finally have it, though. Right, next game, surprisingly, this was a pretty cheap GameCube game, which is almost nothing you ever hear people say. But it is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Really like golf games, I'm sure you guys have heard from me, but just didn't have a copy of Toadstool Tour here, so yeah, very happy to get it. Still a very, very cheap game, like I said, which is almost something you never hear of GameCube games these days, especially Nintendo-made games, but very happy to get it nonetheless. And the last thing here, was so happy to finally get this, though. Like, this has always been, like, an affordable, like, thing, but just never pulled the trigger on it until now. It's the Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots Limited Edition. You could still find this, like, somewhat readily available online, still really cheap too, but the only difference with this compared to the normal release is that it comes in, like, a really nice hard case here, that beautiful artwork that the Metal Gear series is very well known for. Then you would open it like this, and then you would get inside a standard copy of the game, which actually, I picked this up without the game because I've already had, like, a standard copy of MGS4 forever, obviously, but just found this online, and the seller was just no games included, but had everything else, so yeah, why not get it? Good upgrade for the standard. But the other thing you got with it was a Blu-ray movie disc, and it was basically like a making of Metal Gear Solid 4, somewhat of a history of the series up to this point. Yeah, like interviews with Kojima himself talking about the game during its development phase. you got some opening cinematics from the game itself, or even like the those weird few scenes when you would first start the game as well. I think they showed that off in here, and you even get some music. You get 16 tracks here from the game as well. So yeah, very happy to finally get the limited edition of this game here, because you guys know Metal Gear Solid, the best game series of all time, and I don't want to hear any other opinions on that subject matter right there, because anything Metal Gear related, I love, and I want all of it. So yeah, that will do it for this month's pickups, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you guys got some pretty good deals this month as well. So with that said, be sure to rate this video, comment below of what your favorite thing was, or what you guys got as well. Be sure to share it with your friends as well, and do make sure to subscribe if you want to see more pickups in the future. Till then, guys, I'll see you next time.